in 2020, when I called Pete Buttigieg a little rat or whatever, I was so engrossed into that like echo chamber of far leftism. I wasn't able to see past my anti-establishment glasses and understand just how valuable he is in terms of communication right now.
Pete Buttigieg, I'm sorry. I made a little bit of fun of you. I called you a dork and a dweeb and a nerd and a square. I meant it. I'm not going to say I didn't mean it, but I don't mean it now. Hey, everybody. We've got a very exciting episode this week where we're going to talk to Manny Fidel, and we're going to talk about Pete Buttigieg and how awesome he's been lately. And I've got a little bit of an apology for him. Please comment down below how you feel about a potential 2028 run for Mayor Pete.
Hey guys, I'm Tim Miller.
I'm Cameron Kasky.
And this is FYPod. We got a good guest coming here today. He might have a book coming out. We're not sure. We're going to have to talk to him about that. I've been working on it. And he's working on a bunch of stuff. His name is Manny Fidel. What's going on, Manny?
Not much. Doing pretty good. Thank you for having me on the show. I feel honored to be invited on the show about young people, considering I'm well into my 30s. So that was.
Oh, but don't be aging. Don't be aging yourself. Your skincare looks great.
I was going to say you look so good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a problem in the New York City bar scene, getting carded and asked if I'm over 21, but.
I'm begging to get carded.
Andrew Schultz is a podcaster. I don't know that much about him, except he does not have a face that is appropriate for a mustache, and he looks like a fucking idiot. But he had recently come out and said, like, oh, yeah, I used to be a liberal back when liberals were cool and they were getting their dicks sucked in the White House. But now, the liberals aren't cool anymore, so I'm a conservative now because that's what's cool. And you're like, people in right-wing circles seem to still think that MAGA is the counterculture, but it's the culture now. And that doesn't mean that Nancy Pelosi is what's hip. But, Pete Buttigieg went on to Andrew Schultz's podcast and really showed just how thin the right-wing ideology is right now by basically explaining something. And Andrew Schultz was like, oh, yeah, man, that was great.
Yeah, if you press those guys like even a little bit on some topic that they think they know about, they completely fold. And I noticed that actually throughout the duration of.
Did you watch the whole 3 hours, Manny?
Almost. I've got about 12 minutes left.
I was excited to watch it. And then it was 3 hours, and I'm doing like 90 podcasts a week, and I've got to do Nicole Wallace, and I went to the Goose Show, and I've got a parent, and so I couldn't fit the 3 hours into my schedule. So why don't you give us a little of a readout? Yeah,
I'll give you a quick summary. Basically, he goes on. I was surprised by the amount of times he actually had to stop or pause or drop like an interesting point because the hosts needed to like crack their like 3-minute long belabored jokes. So that kind of actually made for a bad watching experience. But yeah, I think Pete Buttigieg, this is something I've been thinking about ever since, in contrast with, my 2020 lefty online days, is that he's like a really good communicator. And that's something I'm realizing now. He's really good at, hearing someone's complaint about something, addressing the like emotional layer to the complaint first, and then telling the person why they might be wrong, or just contextualizing the issue a little bit better. And that's what's happened. That happened probably 30 times during the duration of the show. And it made me think about like politicians' foray into these kind of like manosphere podcasts. One example was, these four bros talking about how good Doge is and how like effective the Department of Government efficiency is. And I noticed something they kept bringing up, which was like, hey, I don't want to sound like I'm defending the Trump administration. And I believe them, but the reason it does sound like they're defending the Trump administration is because that's where all their information comes from. And I don't think enough Democrats are going on those kinds of shows. And I'm always conflicted as like a consumer of media, because I think the shows are dumb, but at the same time, you should go on to them if you're an elected official or someone who's trying to convince constituents about X, Y, and Z.
So here's my question: somebody who's watched the 3 hours, because I've seen a couple clips, and obviously Pete was great. Pete's great in these settings. And here's a really good clip where he's like, if people haven't seen it, we'll put it in the notes, where he's like explaining what freedom is to him. And it was pretty good. It's a nice pushback to like the bro, I should be free to say pussy if I want to. And it's like, well, no, freedom's a little more complicated than that. But so that part was good. My question though is like, there's one part of me that's like, yeah, more Democrats should do this. Like, because it's, if you go on to someplace and talk to people for 2 hours, they realize you don't have fucking horns and aren't like, trafficking babies in a pizza basement and like whatever. They see you're a normal person. On the other hand, I think, are there other Democrats? Like, how many Democrats could do it well? Like how hard did it seem? Like, as a consumer, did it seem like something you're like, oh yeah, man, I could see Cory Booker doing this? Or do you watch it and be like, man, no, thank God Pete's doing this because it seems hard.
Herein lies the issue. So I think more of them should do it, but only Pete, maybe one or two other Democrats can actually thrive in that environment. And, 4 years ago, I probably wasn't someone who thought he could, but now I'm learning a lot more about him. I don't see Kamala Harris or Cory Booker being able to sit there for 3 hours and hear like the dumbest shit possible, but still be able to like be personable and engage the hosts of the show. So that is a real problem. It's like a kind of a conundrum. They should do it more, but no one can do it to that extent.
I think the thing that Pete does very effectively, I used to be super anti-Pete and I used to think he was a square and that he wasn't making us look any better. And then a year or so ago, some of my normal people friends, I got this group chat called Infinity Gang. It's like been my best friends for like 7 years.
That's the normal group? The Infinity Gang? That's
the normal group. Okay. Regular guys. We're called Infinity Gang because one of our friends is obsessed with the infinity sign because his name is Mooch. It's Anthony Scaramucci's adult son. And he goes by the nickname
Anthony
Mooch.
Scaramucci's adult son is in the normal text chain called Infinity Gang?
He's one of my best friends.
Okay, and I'm concerned about what the other text chains are, but go ahead. So I'm just trying to get the facts.
His name is Anthony Scaramucci Jr., and he also took the nickname from his father. So his father, the Mooch, Mooch is just Mooch without the. But Infinity Gang is my friends who see some articles about politics and, will tell me what they think, but they aren't political nerds like other people I know. And two of my buddies who were like, Mooch not included, I'm not going to indict him with that. Two of my other buddies who kind of have the like Trump is funny thing that some people do, where they're like, we don't support Trump, but we think he's funny. Yeah. Which there's truth to that. But also I think some people get a little too buddy with it. But they also think that Barack Obama is the coolest person of all time and he plays basketball and smokes cigarettes and shit. So these guys who don't really engage with me about politics unless I directly ask, they sent a clip of Mayor Pete talking about something. I don't even remember what it was.
I bet it was his appearance on the Jubilee, the 1 versus 20 videos.
I don't know, but they sent it to me and they were like, wait, this guy's spitting facts. And I was like, yeah. So my whole opinion on Pete changed. And since then I've been able to see that like he is such a great communicator. And in terms of, the Kamala and Cory maybe not being able to do Joe Rogan, it kind of makes me think, I think one of the reasons Pete is so effective and personable is that he isn't trying very hard to have a personality that he doesn't have. And I think one of the things that makes a lot of Democrats so cringe when they're trying to do that is they try so hard to, I'm a normal person, look at me. And in doing that, they like embarrass themselves. Like there's no way to look less cool than to try and look cooler than you really are. And Pete is sort of owning this fact that he's kind of like a nerdy square who's just going to tell you the facts. So he's not falling because he's not jumping too high. But Tim, you had said, we were talking about this a long time ago. I think on the first video you and I ever did, something that cursed you with me for much longer than it should have been. You had said, I was talking to Mayor Pete and I said to him, you can't be the guy who goes on Joe Rogan. Has your opinion on that changed?
I don't know if that's exactly what I said, because I do think he should go on Joe Rogan. What I don't know is, can Pete be the person that reaches like bros? And by that, I don't really mean like even like kind of college like frat guys. I mean like working class, like the people that the Democrats really struggled with, like working class Black people, working class Hispanic people. It is like a kind of, I speak 7 languages, like kind of nerdy guy, who's gay. Is he like going to be able to be is he going to be able to resonate with them? And I don't know the answer to that. And so I meant it more on like, I don't know if he could do it in a way that could help him become the president, right? Because I think that like he has some issues. I would love to be wrong, and I'm pretty sure I said this because I love Pete. I would love to be wrong, but that's the thing that I worry about. That said, he could go over there in a way that'd be useful in a way to just like translate Democrats for people. You know what I mean? In a way that maybe helps pave the way for some other person. I'm not really sure, but I do think that he's better than some of the other options, but I do wonder, about whether the gayness and just the nerdiness and the is overcomable.
Well, just as a piece of anecdotal evidence, this show, it's called Flagrant. It's like the broiest thing you can imagine. Yeah. And in the comment section of Pete Buttigieg's appearance, it's all positive. It's like, wow, I'm learning this X, Y, and Z about some issue. People are noting that they are hearing counter facts than what they've heard, especially with the Doge thing. I thought that was like probably the most valuable part of the episode, is that people learning that there aren't millions of dead people getting Social Security. And so, yeah, I think you're right, Tim. It's like right now I see Pete as like the best communicator for the Democrats in terms of getting a message to constituents. I don't know if that's the same exact strategy he's going to need if he's like actually running for president in the next election. But I find it to be really valuable for just that mission of like tapping into this audience that the MAGA people have been so good at reaching.
I want to say one more thing on this in Pete's defense, which is he has exceeded my expectations at every turn. So maybe I'll be wrong about him on this. My friend Liz Smith was his media guru. Me and Liz are besties. And she was like, I'm going to go work for this guy when he's running for president. And I told her she was insane. I asked her if she was having a mental breakdown. And then she was like, will you go meet with him? And I went to one of these like little round table things with him. And I walked out and I was like, he seems fine. He's probably a great mayor, but I don't know. I think you're crazy if you think that he's going to win. And then, he wins the Iowa caucus. Sorry, Bernie people. I was just totally wrong from the start about it. So maybe I'm wrong about the bro stuff too. Like maybe it works.
Who is like the second best Dem right now in terms of like being able to go into an arena like that and just holding their own?
I think AOC would be fine, and she's pretty natural. I think that like there will be misogyny, and like sometimes she does little social justice warrior talk in a way that like might turn off some people. I don't know, but again, she could exceed my expectations. That would be what I'd be worried about. Those two things. Wes Moore is pretty good. He's a guy. He gets into like PowerPoint speak a little bit for me sometimes, like a little bit. Yeah, that's
what's tough, I think, to feel like personable. So many politicians are, they're like that.
Yeah, but I like Wes. Those are Cam. I on the other pod today, I interviewed Beto, and we just don't deserve Beto. We don't deserve him. He's so great. He's so great, dreamy. Yeah. Like I'm just there. I'm just like, God, in a better world, You'd be the governor of Texas.
He was cursed with the state of Texas. You know what I mean? Cursed. Put that guy anywhere else.
Totally cursed. So I don't know, but he could do it, obviously.
I thought about this with because someone else who's making this kind of foray into podcasts or the manosphere anyway is Gavin Newsom, and I always liked his kind of appearances on Fox News and stuff. Like he'd like, not because of what he's saying necessarily, but because he's going into a place that vehemently disagrees with everything he believes in. And just having that ability to exist there. But, it doesn't feel he doesn't feel as good at communicating as Pete, in my opinion. He feels like debating versus Pete, who feels like he's having a conversation with you.
What about JB Pritzker? People like a jolly fat guy.
Yeah. He's got, who
doesn't love a jolly fat guy? Chris Farley. Everybody loves Chris Farley. Yeah. Maybe that would work for bros.
Could I say one quick thing on Pete with this?
Please, yeah, sure. Sebastian.
It's not the bro culture that I worry about with Pete. It's that I think the Democrats, we talked about this, they really want a fighter. And I can't see Pete getting like visibly mad or raising his voice even about anything. And that, for me, that's the nail, is the like...
You don't think Pete's ever been punched?
I don't think Pete has ever like yelled in his life is the thing. And I think that genuine, like he's passionate, but in a sort of like, I thought this through with my therapist kind of way.
Cameron, have you been punched?
Yes. No further comment because I
okay. That was an obvious one. Manny, you don't seem like you've been punched.
I have been punched before. Also,
really?
Also a no further comment situation.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you a follow-up.
No, a very years old friend dispute. Very drunken 4 a.m. situation.
Intra-friend dispute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who
got the better of Who got the better of it?
Oh, I didn't raise a hand.
Okay, you just got smoked.
Yeah, I turned the other. I don't even try.
So I threw the first punch. That was me. But don't worry, because I was a freshman in high school, and the person that I threw the punch at was a freshman in college at Florida State University, and his arms were probably the size of my head, and it really hurt, and my mouth was bleeding.
That's tough.
I didn't deserve it morally or spiritually, but I did throw the first punch. And I think that's what I say in response to you, Sebastian, with the Pete thing is I agree. People want sort of like a fighter who can come out and be big like that. But the other thing I think is some people that we characterize as fighters, the more swings you take, the more misses, right? So a lot of the people who I think are quote unquote fighters end up tripping up the most when they're doing that fighting. So I think one of the things Pete does very effectively, and again, this is not in contrast to what you're saying, it's just a yes and. One of the things he does very effectively is he fights by, even when people are trying to hit him, he just talks to them. And that's one of the things he does on Fox News so well. He doesn't meet these people where they're at. He doesn't meet that energy, because when people are trying to debate you and argue you, the more elevated you make it, they match that. And if you can keep calm and steady the way he does, it does, sort of scramble people's debate computers a little bit.
I have one more Pete question I think we have one other news item. But do you guys think the other challenge that he would have is it just felt like it was very cool to dunk on Pete in young online like TikTok culture. Like
I was doing half of it.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So do you have any? Do you want to apologize to him right now? Actually, you can look at the camera to say actually address your apology to Chasten. Okay, Chasten took a lot of heat.
I think Chasten follows me on Twitter. I've been going around to my friend groups and being like, "Hey, I was wrong. In 2020 when I called Pete Buttigieg a little rat or whatever. I was so engrossed into that like echo chamber of far leftism, and I still believe all of that stuff, but I wasn't able to see past my anti-establishment glasses and understand just how valuable he is in terms of communication right now. I don't know how I'm going to feel about him as a presidential candidate once that comes around, but just as someone who's like going to be the press secretary for the Democrats, so to speak. I think he's doing a great job right now.
I didn't hear an I'm sorry there, but Chasten, I think, will forgive you anyway. We'll see what he says. He's a viewer. Yeah, what?
Just to get on this train, Pete Buttigieg, I'm sorry. I made a little bit of fun of you. I called you a dork and a dweeb and a nerd and a square. I meant it. I'm not going to say I didn't mean it, but I don't mean it now. Now, if I could speak to people the way you did, I would have a much better career than I currently do. And I think that you are one of the most valuable people in the party right now, and you should keep on slaying. And Chasten, I'm sure I made fun of you too, and for that, I'm sorry. I hope you two have a very bright future, and I'm glad that we got to have this moment.
One thing I'm proud of is I never made fun of Chasten.
Okay, so here's my question though: do the younger, less wise versions of you? Will they just, will we just repeat the same history? The 19-year-olds out there?
It's a great question. I don't know. After this election, I stopped being on Twitter /X so much.
Yeah.
And Pete's kind of not been the topic of conversation in those circles, I don't think.
Right.
Great question, though.
I think
that he'll be able to...
What did you think about his answer about the adoption thing? I saw some of the MAGA guys were going after him because he was talking about how this is true. They're two different. If you want to adopt a kid, and you don't care what the race is, then the list is shorter, right? Like, and if you just want a white kid, then like the list is longer. And he mentioned that, and like some of the MAGAs were like going after him about that. Would like how'd that little combo read in the room?
Look, I'll be honest. I put that show on while I'm like eating lunch. I think I missed that part. But yeah, I
okay,
think, like,
good.
I'll go back and listen. But yeah, I
All
think,
right.
and I mean, people should ask themselves if, you know, why they would only want a white kid. And even if, you know, I'm not surprised. Like, I think, you want maybe a kid that kind of looks like you. That's not the craziest thing in the world. But I think people should ask themselves, you know, what exactly makes them think that one kid is worth less than the other.
It's kind of crazy, actually. Like, what, you think that if the kid has brown eyes like you, or like has a fucking like, you know, big schnoz, that like you're gonna love them more? It's a little crazy.
I come from a big adoption family because my father and grandfather did adoptions. And I got to, you know, sometimes kids who were kind of in between foster care and getting adopted would stay at our house when I was growing up. And that was really interesting. But just it's kind of weird because it brings to mind, you know, if you're white and you want like only a white kid, like you said, Tim, it's like if you want them to be in your image, that's still an adopted child. That doesn't make them any more your biological child. And it's this weird, like, not you. It's this. I wouldn't go and call it eugenics, but it's like eugenics. It's like the vibe of eugenics, eugenics core, because it's like, don't you just want a fucking kid? Like, if you want a kid, you'd want any kid.
Love that child.
There's something narcissistic about wanting a kid who has the same race as you. I'm sorry. There, I said it here on the Bulwark. Here on
All right.
Hey, everyone. Producer Sebastian here. If you enjoyed that conversation on Pete Buttigieg, you're going to want to head over to the FYPod YouTube channel to see the full episode, including Boomer Mailbag and Gen Z News. We'll put the link in the description below. Check it out.